Hello. This is my first time in this group doing a Facebook Live. So my name is Dee. I'm known as Dash of Dee. And I'm an illustrator. I do lots of drawing and I mix that in with mixed media. So I'm a pencil artist, I would say. And I create artwork. I'll show you what I do. I do some little drawings that look like that. And then I make them into outlines for people to colour and create their own artwork with. The outlines I do are pale outlines, so not black like a stamp. And today I'm going to show you how to colour the face of this one. This here is the original artwork. That is what I drew. And then I had it made into outlines so that other people can colour and draw with it. This is the little download kit. And you get, in case you want to have it and colour along with me, you get in the kit, if I can just get it laid out, you get outlines which are black if you prefer the stamped look, and then you get outlines that are very pale, like so. And the reason I do that is so that you can have it to look more like a drawing rather than a stamped image. So if you do fancy colouring along with me, that is on my website. I'm a Dash of Dee. And I'll show you. What I did was, I did do a Facebook Live in another crafting group a couple of weeks ago, showing how to colour the outside, and because I use rice paper as well, so it's not just using pencils, it's bringing in other things with your pencils, and I think people forget to use their pencils and things like that. So today I'm finishing off, so this is how far I got doing the outline. So today I'm going to colour her face. I'm going to show you how I colour eyes, her face and some of her hair, and an hour is not very long, so I'm going to crack on and see how far we get. So if I've got anybody there and they want to come in and say hello, come in and say hi. If I don't respond to you during the live hour, I will come back and reply to you later. Right, just make sure that I've got it lined up okay, and that you can see that, and that the light's okay. Feels a little bit squint. Right, okay, I'll get started. So I use Faber-Castell Polychromos for all my drawing. I do sometimes bring in Prismacolor, but today I'm using Faber-Castell. And I'm going to use a normal pencil to start off so that I can draw out her eyes. So this is the outline that you would get in my little downloadable images on my website. So I'm just going to go in with a normal HB pencil and just mark out where I want her eye to go. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a curve there, and again maybe about there. So you can always change things as you go along, and you can go in and draw sparkles and things if you like, but this is a very small pencil, so forgive me for now for having such a very small pencil, but it does show you how much I use them. So I'm going to go in to this area, and with very light circular motions I'm going to start colouring. Now it's very faint at the minute, you can hardly see it, I dare say, and find a couple of areas I want to keep some white. So I'm going in where the pupil would be as well, because I like to layer up the colours and it just makes them more vibrant. So I've got a little bit of white in the centre there, which will be a sparkle. And I'm now going to go for a different colour. I'm going for a terracotta, and I'm going to start adding in some more layers. So starting at the very outside, if you start at the outside, then it gives you more control and you can just slowly start to build it in. So you can, there's lots of ways of doing eyes. This is just one way that I'm doing it today. I've done other Facebook Lives and different groups to show you different ways of doing eyes, and on my website as well I have some classes showing you how to do it. So if we start at the outside, and then that helps to make the eye look round if you keep that a little bit darker. And I'm just going to keep it a little bit lighter at the bottom. And then I'm going to bring in some darker colours. I'm going to bring in some browns now. So I'm using this Dick Van Dyke brown first off. Now if you want to, you can go in and you can darken up. If I just turn it around a little bit, you can go in and go over this line, this pale line, just to emphasise where your eye is. And then you can start to drag some of that colour down into where the pupil's going to be. So I'm just going to turn it back around again. So I'm just going to judge that I kind of want the pupil. I'll put a little bit of a line there and a little bit of a line there, and I'll just start to fill it. But you don't have to do those lines. You can just keep colouring away and just see what occurs. I think it's good to not put pressure on, just to try and enjoy it. So I'm going to cover most of that, but I've got some little areas that I'm going to keep white because they can be your sparkles. And I'm also going to bring this brown all the way down here because this is going to be shadowed, and bring it into where the white of the eye is as well. I'm just going to darken that up a little bit. So if you do a little bit of grey or dark brown in there, it just helps to make it look like you've got a shadow. So I'm going to bring it all the way down into the white. And then try to not have any white now between where that line is and where your pupil is you're starting to see the pupil starting to evolve. Right, so I'm going to leave it there for now in the pupil and bring in some more colour. This is eventually going to be black, but if you build it up with different layers underneath it, it just makes it look a bit more vibrant. And I love doing eyes. That's where all my artwork starts, because I like expressing emotion from the eyes, and I use my artwork to express how I'm feeling on different occasions. And if you look at my girls, you'll see that when you look at their eyes. So just having it darker around this outside bit to help make it look round. So I'm keeping it light, but at the minute going round the outside I've started to press a little bit harder. But for the rest of the colouring, keeping it really light. Now you can start to bring in little squiggles, or you can just change the colours and do little, you can write words, or you can do all sorts, but I'm just doing little squiggles. I'm going to go a little bit darker with the brown, and I'm going to use a burnt sienna, and starting up here at the top, just starting to, so you can see I'm layering them up. You can bring that burnt sienna in on top of that brown that you've already done, that'll eventually be black, and you can go around this outside line as well, keeping it dark, and then bringing in a little bit of a squiggle with that as well. I'm just saying hi to everybody there. This is Steph Woodbury. Hi Steph, how are you? If there's anybody wants to pop in and say hello, do, and if I don't respond, I will respond at the end if you have any questions, or if you want to ask me anything. So I'm going to bring this burnt sienna in onto where the pupil's going to be as well. And I'll start to shape up now where I can see sparkle starting to evolve. I can see a little bit of a sparkle starting to evolve here, so I'll just emphasise it. And then there's another little sparkle starting to evolve round the corner here. So I'm just going to emphasise that bit as well. Right, I'm going to bring in the black. And again I'm going to go over where that line is, and I'm going to press hard now, so that burnishes it. And if you don't know what burnishing means, it just means that you're pressing all the colours together, and once you've burnished it, it makes it shiny. It also means that you can't really layer very much on top of it, so you kind of keep that little bit to the end. But because I want this to be black, and I want it to be really black, I'm just pressing hard there straight away, and then starting to come in on top of that brown that we've already put down and build that up. There's another little sparkle starting to come there as well, so I might just keep it as well. So I like to keep it really dark up at the top, and then some of the brown or the sepia down the bottom starts to make it look like it's a bit marbly. So now I'm starting to press hard on top of this black, on top of those other colours. Might come down a little bit. The good thing with eyes is you can just make them different every day. So it's quite nice if you just want to practice just doing lots of different eyes. That's what I enjoy doing. I do have eye practice sheets on my website where you can practice. So I'm going to bring in some skin colours around her eye now. I'm going to come back to her eye, but I just want to slowly build it up. So I'm using this beige red, and I'm going to start just very lightly. You probably won't see much initially because this is such a light colour, but I'm going to make a mark just here, and that is going to be where you get the start of her eye, the bag under her eye. And I most of the time make the bags under my girl's eyes white, and I'm going to just add a little bit coming up round the top here. It does take a little while to build up a face, and I'm going to try and just do as much as I can in this hour with you, just to let you have an idea of who I am, what I do, and just show you how you can layer up your pencils. So I'm going to bring it round as well. I'm going to leave a little bit of white just directly under her eye, but just from her cheek, and just start to drag in a little bit of that pale tone. Now the good thing with this is like a base layer, and when you do your base layers it's good because you can rub that out. It's really pale, so if you decide you don't like it, you can rub it away and start again. Also, it stops the colours that sit on top of it from looking so harsh. If you were to go straight down with like a red, for instance, if you wanted to do a red cheek, it would look really harsh, and the base layer just helps you to put it down softer and let it build up gradually. And it also allows you to see where you want your shadows and shades to go without worrying about going down too heavy. Right, so that's our first sort of layer. I've made it darker in here, and I'll add different shades on top of that to make it even darker. But I'm going to give her a blue eye lid, which I've forgotten to get out. Let me just get my blue pencil. So I'm using a light cobalt turquoise, and I should have sharpened it. Just let me sharpen. Sorry, it's noisy. But I always prefer to have a sharp pencil. You've just got more control and it just looks better. So I'm going to start in here and just build up over most of that eyelid. And then when I get to the top, I'm going to leave it white, and then that allows you to have a little bit of a sparkle. And then just do a little bit more down the bottom. And then with the darker blue, for this I'm using a light phthalo blue. Just starting where the black line is, just start to drag a little bit darker up the eye. And if you keep building up your blues, getting darker and darker, just start light and then darker, then it goes on. It goes on much nicer. So I'm just going to get another brown. I'm going to use this Dick Van Dyke brown and emphasise the lid. So just going over that line that's already there. And then just come down here as well. And then gradually, just with little light circular motions, start to drag a little bit of that darker shade out, and then that starts to make it look like your eyelid is got a little bit of depth there. You're starting to show a little bit of a shadow coming up and over. And then if you put a black right in at this end, right in at this line here, then it just makes it look like it's a crease. So depending on what kind of look you're going for, you can also take that shadow up and have it under her hair, which we'll probably do once I start doing her hair as well. So I'm just going to put a little bit dark around the side of her head. There's a dog barking outside. I hope it's not too noisy. It's not my dog, it's a neighbour's dog. So we've got a little bit of a crease starting there. I'm just going to use this brown just to emphasise this bottom part of her eye as well. Now you can use your white gel pens and things to get to make it look shiny in there, like it's watery. I haven't brought my pen to do that today, but I've done other classes where I've done that. So I'm just going to go back up to where the black is and start to make that look more like a shadow, and drag it down and into the black as well. If you go over the colours that are already there, it helps keep it looking cohesive, and it doesn't look like you're just all of a sudden stopping. So that's starting to make it look like there's a little bit of a shadow. Do the same over here, because if you imagine there's a bit of a shadow coming over where her eye's drooping over, where her eyelid's drooping over. And I'm going to bring elements of this brown into her eye as well, so just maybe bring in a few little squiggles and go over the black. I might get rid of that central sparkle, let it evolve as you go, and just have these little white ones. So I'm going to go back and bring in the very light burnt ochre and put it right at the very bottom here of where the pupil is, and go over the top and drag some of that colour up into the black, emphasise more of that sparkle, and then eventually it starts to look marbly. So I'm going to go back over with my black, press really hard to get rid of that little space that I'd made earlier on that I thought was going to be a sparkle, and change my mind. And then just drag some of that down into that ochre, and then eventually it starts to look, I'm not sure how much it's picking up in the camera, but it does start to look like a marble. And if you press really hard, then it burnishes it and it makes it shiny. Right, I'm going to leave a little bit of the eye. We're going to do a bit of her nose, a bit of her face, and then we'll start to get her cheek and things in. It is a little process that we have to go through. So I'm going to use my beige red again. So we've got the lines of her nose already there. I'm just going to use this just to create another little, just to make her nose look a bit rounder. Now the good thing is you can change the size of her nose, the shape of her nose when you've got these pale lines. You don't have to make that little bit as big. So one of the reasons why I do the outlines like that is so that you've got control as well, so that you can create your own authentic artwork from the outlines that I give you, because every time you do it, they look different. Right, so now with this beige red, I'm going to put a base layer down on her nose and then work it so that there's going to be an area. So I'm going to do a little circle there. If you keep it light, then you kind of know what you're working towards. You don't have to do that circle, but I'm just doing it for for you today to let you see what I'm aiming towards. Getting that to make the nose look round. So that's our first layer. So I do little button noses. I don't do like real noses in case you're waiting for a real nose. So I'm just going to show you. Like, there's another little button nose that I've done. There's another one. That's the style of nose that I do. And so I'm going to now go for a darker shade of pinky tone, so coral is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start on the outside, so where we did that little line, just go over that. Now you can use different shades, you can use your burnt ochres or your browns or your greys or whatever for your noses. This is just how I do it. So keeping it darker on the outside and keeping it lighter, and then gradually getting to that point where you've got that little white button. The electric sharpener that I'm using, Mag, is Jacquard, it's called, and it's really good. I'm going to bring it in a little bit there. It's very, you can see it's been well used, but it's called Jacquard. And I got it just on Amazon, I think. I can't remember how much it was. But to be honest, it changed my life because I was spending my whole life sharpening pencils. And you just stick it in and it does it. Job done, it's really good. Right, I'm going to go for a brown now. So I'm going to go for raw umber to try and get a little bit darker just under here in her nose. And in the corner over at this side, just slowly building it up, keeping it light. Now if you do light circular motions, it helps you to cover all of the paper. It allows the tooth of the paper to grab the colour, and it just allows you to build up layers on top, and it's relaxing which is why I do it, because it just takes you out of the zone for a little while. So I've now got a darker brown, which is the raw umber, and I'm just going to emphasise these little bits here. And I'm also, while I'm here with the beige red, I'm just going to, on the top of her lip, so you've got the line, I'm just going to mirror that line just there, just so that we start to get that little area where it becomes what I don't ever know what it's called, that little bit there. I've been told lots of times when I'm doing these Facebook Lives, people remind me what it's called, but it just won't stay in my head for some reason. So just gradually building up more colour up to that little point where there's that little white circle. You're welcome, Mag. I hope that helps. It's nice to have you with me again. You were with me a couple of weeks ago in the Crafting Together one. So I like when I get people who I start to feel familiar with. I feel like I'm recognising their names and I know that they're coming along, so I get to know them. So I'm just darkening up this area again, staying on the same colour. And now that I've got that darker bit in here, I'm going to go over the top of it. Now you can do this and start to build up a line where your nose would be if you wanted to do real noses. But what I do is I tend to come to about here and then I start to come down the side. So there's still going to be white between the nose and the skin. And then just starts to emphasise a little bit. And I like it to stay kind of white around about here. I put some creams in there. And this is where her cheek will be. So I'm just going to put a few more layers on here. And then we'll get some pinks in there. So now we're slowly starting to see that white bag start to arrive. So I'm just going to do half of her face because it takes too long otherwise, and I'm just checking my time. So we're half an hour in. So I'm going to bring in some cream And I'm going to bring the cream in here on this area that I've kept a little bit lighter, just to add a little bit of warmth into her face. So just slightly. And then I'm going to use coral to start to build up her cheek. So I'm going to keep it white under her eye, and then if I start maybe in the centre here, right at that line, if I slowly bring it out, then it gives you a bit of control, and you can change the different types of cheeks that you give your girls. So sometimes you can do a circle, or you can have them just here, or you can have your cheek more down at the bottom and coming up. So today I'm going here. Just keep doing my little circular motion. And eventually, if you keep doing it, you start to get this little white area that comes between this line and here, and that helps to make your face look like it's round. And if you just keep going over it and trying to even it out so that it looks pretty much the same. You can come out as far as you like as well. I'm going to come out maybe to about here. Just go by the feel really. Each day is different, each girl's different. Hello Elizabeth. You have been with me from the start. You're one of my faithful ladies and I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming and joining me again. And Steph, this is your first time watching and you're enthralled. Oh, that's lovely. I am really pleased to know that. Thank you. I just enjoy doing it. I find it relaxing, and if anybody else can get a little bit of relaxation out of it as well, colouring alongside me, it's quite nice. It's nice to have people who are like-minded, isn't it? And so we've got a little bit of her cheek done. I'm going to come in and do some of her lips. We've got more layers to do all over, and I want to try and do a little bit of her hair as well, but it's just showing you how it can slowly build up. Right, so with the lips, again, I start with my palest colour to get my base line in, beige red, and we just put like a rough sort of base down, and some areas keeping white, just so that you can get some sparkles in her lips. And then once I've got that, and with a sharp pencil, starting at the top, doing little curls. Now you won't see very much for this first layer because it's very light, so I'm going to press harder just to let you see, but I would advise not to go hard until the very end. So we've got it that the curl is going in that direction at this side and it's coming in this direction at this side, and then that helps to make it look round. And if we do the same from the bottom up like so, and then again at this side going in the opposite direction. She looks like she's had her lips stitched at the minute, but it just helps to make them look round. So I'm going to use a pink Madder Lake. No, sorry, I'm not. I'm going to start with this one first, the coral. And I'm going to start to soften those lines. I'm going over the top of them a little bit, but just softening them by doing a little flick all the way along. So you'll have some areas where there's a little bit of white, and I'm keeping it light as well. Now if you do the same, coming out from where the lip parts, coming out and over, that helps to keep it looking round as well. So coming out from that parting, and then if you go up from the parting into the lip, can you see it starting to give that sort of look of it being round? And then after that you can start to blend it in. So with the same pencil, I'm going circular motions now to soften it. And I like to keep it at its darkest in at the centre, because there's some, if you imagine, there'll be a shadow there where the lips part over each other. And then just going, finding little bits and then keeping some little bits white. And then again, keeping it darker at the bottom again because of the shadow. And as you build up your lips, you can bring in different tones to emphasize those shadows. You can bring in different shades of pinks and reds, and just if you keep doing the same process, doing your lines, and then doing your soft circular motions over the top, then it starts to build up. So I'm now using Pink Madder Lake, and again I'm going to start doing some little lines and some coming out. And keeping it darker at the bottom and softening those lines just by doing our little circular motions. Now with my normal pencil, like a normal lead pencil, I'm just going to turn it around a little bit so that I can see, and then I'm just going to emphasise that parting. Now you can change the part, you can change it and do little, give her like a fatter bottom lip and things with the pale line. The more colour you put over the top, the more you can see how you can change what's originally there and make it more like your own. I'm going to bring in some orange, a nice vibrant dark cadmium orange, and do the same. So bringing in a little bit of a different colour adds more interest. It just brightens up her lips, bringing in a little bit of orange. And as well, now that we've got a little bit of orange in our lips, it might be nice to bring a little bit of orange into her eye. So maybe just bring in a tiny little bit, maybe a little splash, maybe a circle. Oh, thank you, Janet. That's very kind of you. I'm happy that you're enjoying watching it and that you think it's good. Right, I'm bringing the Pink Madder Lake, so we've got a little bit of pink in our lips, so I'm now going to bring this into her cheek. And so I kind of do that whenever I've got different colours in, start bringing them in different places on her face or in her hair or around the background, just to make it a little bit more cohesive and keep it feeling like it's all meant to be together. So you can do that, and then of course we've done a little bit of pink on her nose, so I might bring a little bit of pink in, sorry, pink on her cheeks, so I'll bring a little bit of pink in on her nose as well. Now, I'm going to start doing a little bit of her hair as well. There's lots still to do, yeah, but I just want to start showing you how you can do a little bit of her hair as well. So I'm going to start with the burnt ochre and have that as my base sort of layer. So I'm wanting our hair to be coming in this direction, and you really, well, I'm not going to tell you you should, because people can do whatever they like, but you want the hair to be going in the direction that it's growing, and in this case it's growing down the way. So I'm getting some lines in, but also keeping it soft and having it that I'm getting a base, that baseline that I was talking about earlier on, because it's still light enough that if I decided I didn't like that colour, I could rub it away. And so I'm going to get some little lines that I'm going to start flicking up. I'll do a little bit of her fringe. So she's got lines there already to show you where her fringe would be. So just flicking it. And then from the top, like what we did with her lips, to make her head look round, just doing that sort of. Motion. And so eventually you start to have little areas that look white, and I like to have it that there's a white area right along the centre there, because then you can make her hair look shiny. Now if I just bring in what I've done before just to show you what we're aiming for. Now also with the girls that I do their hair, I leave them sometimes so that you can add. So if you wanted to make her have long hair, then you can do that. If you wanted to keep it just the length that it is, then you can do that also. So just little flicks here where I'm giving her a bob. So finding out where I want the end to be and then just flicking it up. and then coming around to meet those lines that we've already made. So we'll do our hair to about here today. And so I also try to have it that it's always at its darkest at the very, very top, and it gets lighter as it comes down and a little bit darker maybe along the fringe. So just adding a few more layers now over the top with the same colour, so you can see how you can build up your colour. It's the same colour, but with adding more layers and going over it, you can, it looks like there's a different colour there, what some's lighter, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense when I say that. And I'm going to get a darker brown now, so I'm going to use this raw umber and do a little bit more of the same, so getting that round sort of feeling at the top of her head, getting some lines in. And the sharper your pencil with hair, the better. The more time you take with it as well, the better. I'm obviously rushing a little bit to try and show you as much as I can. And then again doing more flicks from the bottom. So I do have I have a subscription area on my website where people can subscribe, and I upload different drawing and colouring classes and also crafty projects that I do. And I do my Facebook lives and things, so if I do have a page as well, if you fancy coming over and following me. I'm Adasha D. I'm on Pinterest, Instagram and Facebook, and I have a group as well if you fancy coming over and adding some of the things that you create with my products or my classes. Oh, I've gone up to burnt sienna and I forgot to tell you. So again, just more of the same, more layers, and every time you get another line on there, it starts to look like the strands of hair. So I'm having it as well that it's darkest at the bottom. Now you can decide on where you fancy having your lights and shades, and you could maybe have it that one side had more light and the sides in the shade. On this occasion I've decided I want the light to go along the front of her head, and it might be a little bit lighter at one area at the side. So if we start having a few lines that still go where we want that little white shiny bit, just a few, you don't kind of want all of them, then it starts to look shiny eventually. We've covered quite a lot actually in this little short time. Is there anybody there? Oh, you're finding it relaxing, Elizabeth. Good. That's why I draw. It just takes you out of the zone for a little while, doesn't it? And into a nice place where you can just be on your own with your pencils and do what you like. So the story behind my girls is, well, I use metaphors. So I draw a girl, and usually they're reflective of me, even though they don't look like me. And I give them what I feel I need. So on this occasion, I felt like I needed a little bit of peace in my heart. So that was where, I'll show you the original drawing. That was the original drawing. And I gave myself self-compassion on that day. And then, as I've had the outline, because I end up colouring them in as well. I create them for other people and I end up sitting colouring them. But, so yeah, it's I surround my artwork or my girls or whatever I'm drawing with metaphors that are reflective of what I feel I need at the time. So just to give you a little bit of background about me and my art. I'm now using burnt umber and using this to emphasize more lines and to create it a little bit darker at the bottom. So I'm just going to turn it on its side a little bit, because what I like to do is go right along the edge with the side of my pencil, and I do that. As you can see, I've already done the background of this one, so I go around with the edge and colour all of that so that you see it just finishes it off and just doesn't make it look like the head's actually gone off the page. It looks like it's a deliberate thing. And I'm just going to add a little bit of shade. So on the side of my pencil, just come in and shade this top bit and have it at its very darkest there, because that, if I just go along a little bit where the hair, we don't have any hair, then that'll help to make it look round as well. And then go over the top and emphasize lines so that it looks like the lines are coming out of the top of that page, so it doesn't look odd. And then bring some of that down into the hair. So I'm going to get my very small burnt ochre pencil, and I'm just going to bring a little bit in. So where the start of the shine is going to be, I'm just going to add a little bit of this, and then the same at the top, and it just softens it a little bit to bring it into the shine. I can hardly hold this pencil now. It's going to go to Pencil Graveyard. I have a little tin and it's just full of little tiny pencils like that, and I call it my Pencil Graveyard. So I'm just going to bring a little bit down the side as well, just to bring that. I'm going to get my black and really emphasize the very bottom of her fringe, and where there's a bit of fringe that goes up, imagine that that's going to be a little bit of a shadow in under there. And if you do the same with all those little bits that are on this sort of side, and you can also do it as a underneath as well. And then if you have like a sepia or another shade of brown, you can start to create that shadow that goes underneath. So I'm going to use sepia. Am I? No, I might use brown because her face is quite light today. So I'm going to use raw umber and just underneath her fringe start to put this colour in and bring that down into where we've done her eye. So going up as well there, and then start to slowly build up the shadow. And then I'm going to use the sepia, sorry. So the idea is to have no white where her fringe finishes and where her shadow is. And then just build that up. So I'm just going to go in under here. And emphasize where fringes. I'm going to bring that right down into her. You can bring that onto her eyelid as well, starting to show that there's a bit of a shadow coming. down from her fringe. And if you just keep layering it up and going over, then it starts to look like there is a shadow there. So if you have it a little bit darker directly underneath the fringe, and then the shadow gets lighter and lighter. Just trying to make sure there's no white, because that gets rid of the illusion. If there's, you don't want any white there. I'm going to just emphasise that a little bit there on her eyelid as well, to make that a bit darker. So I would go over the top of that with skin tones and things as well, just to soften it and to keep building it up. And do that all the way along, and then it starts to look. So if we bring in our black and then go over that little bit there, then it starts to look like that's the shadow. Slowly coming, just takes a little bit of time. Just get rid of this colour in here as well, keep it dark in there, and just keep darkening up that area. And if we start building up her hair, it'll start to come together soon. So walnut brown now, and start to build up her hair a bit more. Of course, you know, whatever colour you want to do, you could do her hair with reds and blues, or I'm just going for brown today. There's always a point where I start to go quiet because I get engrossed in what I'm doing and I forget I'm supposed to be talking to you. Is everybody okay? Oh, the pencils I use, Janet, are Faber-Castell Polychromos, and I do use alongside them on occasions the Prismacolor as well, but predominantly it's the Faber-Castell, and sometimes the Luminance, but not always. Sometimes I just like a different colour that's not, my Faber-Castells don't have in the Prismacolor, and the Luminance can sometimes just give me that. But I like the quality of Faber-Castell. They're an oil-based pencil. You use Faber-Castell as well. Yeah, they are lovely for sharpening, Elizabeth. I started off with Derwent when I first started colouring and drawing, and then I progressed to the Prismacolor, and then when I discovered Faber-Castell I didn't really go back to anything else. So I'm just going over it. So that little area is you're starting to see now where that shine is starting to come, and if you just every now and again add a little line into it, then you can also bring in like maybe a cream, and if you just do it at the very ends, then that sort of softens it, makes the shine become more gradual. And if you just do it at the ends of all of it, it's starting to come together. I just want to go back in and do a little bit more in her eye because we've got 10 minutes left. So I'm going to put in a little bit of goldy yellow, so like there's a dark Naples ochre. I just want to put a little bit of this into her eye as well, so I'm having it that it's at its lightest right at the bottom. Bring some of that ochre into her pupil as well. This is a really good pencil for really brightening up things, so if I was to put that in her hair now as well, that would start to brighten it, or if you're going around the edges of your artwork on top of what you've already done, it's a really good good one for brightening up things. So I'm just putting a little bit of that into her eye. I would maybe put a little bit just on the side of her nose as well. Again, just bringing colours in where you've already used them. And I'm just going to go back over. I want to press really dark, not dark. I'm going to press really hard. Just turn her around a little bit. Because wherever you've been, and then you do some more layers, it's just good to go back over again, because it all blends into itself. And it does, the paper does tend to absorb it, and then it gets a little bit lighter. So if you do it one day and you go back to the next day, you could probably add a few more layers. I'm just darkening that up in there again. You see how shiny it gets when you press hard, and maybe emphasise on that shadow in there. And so you've got choices of lots of different types of eyelashes that you can give them as well. If we have time, I'll try and put on a few eyelashes. I'm just going back to the burnt sienna, darkening up around the outside, pressing hard. And I'm just going to slightly, just do a little bit just along the line. I'm going to add a little bit more blue. I just want to get a darker blue out of my box. Right, it's more of a cobalt turquoise. I just need to sharpen it, sorry. Right, so now if I come in and just on the very end where the black is, having it at its darkest, and then it starts to fade out, the blue gets lighter, the layers that you've done earlier. And then again darkening up over at this side. And we've done a little bit of shadow on there, so you can go over the top of that with your whatever colour you're doing your eyes as well. And I'm going to get my darker pink, so my coral, and then start to emphasise this area here, so I start to get darker in there, and you can drag some of that up and over the outside as well, and in on top of that shadow that you've done. And it brings in a little bit of the pinky as well. I'm just going to drag some of this out so that it comes closer to where her nose would be. Just keeping it light, so it's really dark in the centre there, and then dragging it out a little bit lighter. And then that helps to emphasise that little bag under her eye to make it look whiter. You can always go in there with a white or an ivory. I'm going to put in a little bit of ivory in there because I forgot to get my white and I don't want to get back up again. And then with the burnt sienna, I'm going to darken it up even more in there, so just very slightly right in at the corner. Then it just, I think it just makes her eye pop a little bit more, and you can drag a little bit of it out, keeping it light. We're getting there. We've got 5 more minutes. I'm just trying to add a little bit. It's nowhere near done. Just trying to add a little bit more layer. Bring some of that pink up closer to her eye. So I sometimes use as well, which I haven't I'm not using today, but on occasions the Pans Pastels, sometimes they're nice if you want to use them as a base, first of all, to get your base sort of colours in, and then go over the top of them with your pencils. They're quite nice. I want to get a little bit of shadow under her nose as well. So we'll just darken up that little area there. And then with the pink, the beige red, start to get a little bit of a shadow going in under her nose. So making sure there's no white in this area up here. And then you can use that to create this little bit on her mouth. You just keep it nice and soft. And then the same underneath her mouth. You want to have a little bit of a shadow in there and add to a little circle. Usually to have. Have I inspired anybody to get their pencils out? Do you use a blending and burnishing pencil? No, I don't, Mag. But what I do is I use my creams and my whites sometimes, or depend. So say for instance the background, if I wanted to keep it really light and I've used yellows and golds and things like that, I would go over the top of it with my ivory or my white to burnish it. So I'd press down really, really hard with that. And can you see that kind of pulling all those colours together? I don't know if you can see that, but with my darker pencils, with the eye, I would use my black to burnish and I would just press really hard. So I tend to keep all of it really, really light and then just have certain areas that are burnished. So as well in her hair, keeping it pretty much light, but then at the end using the dark brown to burnish bits, to press down hard. So like now I'm pressing hard with that, and then that's pushing all those colours that we've already got in there together. But I'm just doing it in areas, I'm not doing it everywhere, because then you can go over this bit here and burnish it with the lighter one. So burnishing is just pressing hard with the pencil you've got, but you just want to make sure it's the colour that you want. But yeah, I've used burnishing pencils in the past and yeah, they are good. It's just whatever you prefer. I just don't use them now. Hope that helps. And I don't use anything for blending really, no. Unless I use the Pans Pastels. I like using them sometimes to blend in over the top to make things look softer. I'm just going to bring in my cream again, just to emphasise this little bit. And so I would keep going. I'm aware we've run out of time. I would keep going with my the lightest tone to come into the centre, have a little white area here, have the shadow all the way along. Of course, do your eyes at the same time so that you can keep them the same. And then a little bit darker in under her lips, so with a brown or a black, just a little area there, just to show that there's a little bit of a shadow. You can drag some of that up into her lip and some down onto her chin. But I think I've done as much as I can for this hour. So has anybody got any questions? I'm just going to turn my thing around to say goodbye. Louise, wonderful, relaxing to be watching this. Oh, thank you, Louise. You're another lady that's always very supportive, and it's nice to have you with me. Laura, amazing and so relaxing. Thank you. You're welcome, Laura. And you've been drawn with me, Elizabeth. Oh, that's brilliant. Well, I hope you can show me in the group. I'd love to see what you've done. And Mag, you haven't tried Pans Pastels overcolours, but yeah, it is worth trying. They do soften it, and you can rub them out as well. So they're quite forgiving. Thank you, Louise. And Steph. Oh, Steph's inspired. Have a go. Oh, that's wonderful, Steph. Well, if you do join my group, please share with me what you've done. I do love to see. And can't wait to your next release. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to releasing my Wonderland Dreams Louise. It's going to take 2 months, but it's all in production at the minute. And I've got my Wonderland Dreams colouring set as well, and there's a kit as well, so if anybody likes Alice in Wonderland, that's on its way. So there's a stamp, a colouring set, and a crafty kit that you can make cards with. So looking forward to that. It's just taken a while for it to get produced, but I'm just starting out, so I'm still new with the production side of things. I'm just now taking my illustrations and my art making into a new phase where I can share it with people, so good. Anyway, thank you for having me with you for this hour. Hopefully I've inspired you, and hopefully you're feeling nice and relaxed and you're getting your pencils out, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. Bye everybody. Bye.